Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron here with a new to me J.T. Pugh book. I mean, my goodness, J.T. Pugh, what a giant of the faith J.T. Pugh was. And he lived to his mid-80s. He used to come do seminars for us when I pastored in Stockbridge. We'd have round tables with the neighboring pastors and the ministry staff. And he was very prescient. He saw many of the things that are going on today. As a matter of fact, we use the word memes now. It's entered popular culture. He was the first person I ever heard use the term meme, probably in 1998, 1999, and he had to explain what it was. Nobody knew what memes were. So this is kind of a preview. Came out in 2012, but again, this is the first time I've got it. Just bought it at our Georgia District camp meeting. Looks like it's put out by North American Missions. And I think he may have been the NAM director, North American Missions, called Home Missions at that time, director, back in the 80s, 70s, 80s. So this is actually several messages, whereas the Pull of the Future is just the last one. But he wrote a book like for preachers only that is fantastic. It may still be required reading to be in the United Pentecostal Church, and maybe even other apostolic organizations as well, for preachers only. And he wrote one on the cross that is just considered a Christian classic. So even if you're not apostolic, you may enjoy this book. Printed in the USA, that's good. So values according to Jesus, a shepherd feeds the flock. Like, he was beaten. A lot of people don't know J.T. Pugh was beaten for the gospel. I heard him tell about it one time where he was in Louisiana. I think he was from Louisiana. So many of our great preachers came from dirt roads in the middle of nowhere in Louisiana. But he said two guys had him on the front porch and had taken his shirt off and were beating him in the stomach, and and just how horrible that was, how horrible he felt. And, a big price paid. I remember James Kilgore talking about C.P. Kilgore, I think it was his dad, had actually been tarred and feathered. And, that's just a pretty amazing thing there. And I know Brother Montgomery, Sister Cole's daddy, Tim Montgomery's grandfather, who started Tupelo Children's Mansion. This great thing, Bill Clinton really lauded it and stuff. When I pastored in McDonough, Georgia, Henry County, Georgia, he had, back in the 20s, been beaten by deacons from a denominational church with a razor strap, horribly. And his son-in-law, Sister Cole's husband, Brother Cole, Benny S. Cole, started Apostolic Tabernacle, who the Frenches now pastor there, told me about when he had to give him a bath when he was older and kind of an invalid, that his back still looked like spaghetti. So these guys paid a big price to give us the truth. Hope we don't blow it. So, no Stanley Chambers preached that great message about can the United Pentecostal Church stem the tide of history. And in one sense, not to be negative, I mean, maybe in an institutional sense we're not. We're caving quickly. But in a people sense, people still love the truth. Common people heard Jesus gladly. So, this book is about, we'll see how many pages it is, 133 pages. And let's read the last paragraph of this book. The young are not going to be a bunch of deadheads. No, sir, they're going to be Pentecostals. They're going to have their heads up, like Jeremiah talking to the Israelites in Babylonian captivity. Build a house, plant a garden, raise some kids and raise them right, have some grandchildren and teach them the right way. So that's the very last paragraph of this book. So just a preview, can't wait to get into it. So The Pull of the Future, what a great name. And that's just he was a futurist, like he'd go to the World Planetary Citizens meetings. He'd go to the Assembly of God General Conference. He would say, like at the Assembly of God General Conference, he said every year he went, Jesus' name baptism came up. The United Pentecostal Church came up. He said they could never get away from us. the psychology of the oneness of God. You know, Jesus, they said, well, Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? He said, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, soul, mind, and strength. You know, Mark 12, 28 through 30. And so they tell Jesus this, and Jesus tells this person this, and so that has been clinically proven, that they were talking about at a World Planetary Citizens thing that he was at, that they can't integrate people who believe in the oneness of God into the New World Order because they have the ability to focus their entire being on a love for God. So that's fascinating. J.T. Pugh, God bless. Talk with you later in Jesus' name.